Hello and welcome back to the Fulhamish YouTube channel. My name is Don Betts, and on today's video, we're going to be looking ahead to Saturday's big match at Craven Cottage, 3 o'clock on Saturday against Crystal Palace. And joining me to discuss all of this is Diyar Kurnaz from the Back of an S Crystal Palace podcast and YouTube channel, obviously. How you doing, Diyar?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to watch lines all over my face, it's because I'm sat right in front of the window and I've got the blind up because the sun just decided to attack my face. That's basically why there's, if you're wondering what's on my face here. But yeah, if we start with Palace's start to the season, Diyar, what have you made of it so far?
The start to the season, well, it was a good 2 games. People were living in the moment, but going into the season, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have high expectations because of what we've seen with Roy Hodgson at Palace. Of course, beat Man United away from home. Then we go, beat Southampton at home. But then again, you play Everton, you play Brighton, and it's the same old Palace. It's what we've seen under Roy Hodgson for at least a decent good year or 2 now, where we're scared to go and play football, even though I feel like we've got the place to go and do so. And yeah, it's boring and it's frustrating as well to watch as a Palace fan, because lots of Palace fans at this stage, yes, it's all good staying up, but I know some people just want to be entertained, and we're just simply not entertained under Roy Hodgson because of the type of football that he plays. So it's been a frustrating start for many people, but for me, I'm just used to it. At this point, going into the season, I was expecting this, and I'm just going to, hope that it ends sooner rather than later this season. And then after the season, Roy Hodgson just parts way and we go with a different manager, because it's just same old, really.
Yeah, obviously we've known each other for a few years now, and you've always been a critic of Roy Hodgson. Not necessarily that he's doing bad, but you just sort of need the next step now.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it depends on what you want, because let's say, if we were Fulham and at this stage, I guess you guys would take Roy Hodgson because you want to stay up. You just got promoted. You want to stay up. And he's the right man. Of course, he's the right man, because he manages, his defensive work is absolutely brilliant and he'll manage to keep you up. But when you're in the Premier League for 7 to 8 years, it comes to a certain stage. You're like, what are we here for? Is it every year the same thing? Stay up, stay up, stay up, stay up. And at this stage, I don't think Palace fans even care that much about staying up. We just want to see us go and do something different. It's nearly a decade of us having the same objective. Let's go out there and try something. I understand we're not going to be a top 4 side or top 6 side, but at this point, I don't think we'll be upset if we go out there and try something and then get relegated as a result of it. But of course, the owners wouldn't want that, because as I said, it's just dull watching the same thing, Dom, over and over again.
Yeah, I've seen from the outside looking at Palace, it's like it's a team you always know who are going to stay up, but can they make that push to the top 10? And it hasn't really happened. Obviously, there was that season under, was it Tony Pulis where you came in and sort of miraculously turned your season. I think that game where we beat you guys 4-1 I think it was like 7 years ago yesterday, and then that sort of turned your season around, and then our season completely fell apart. Then you guys went on an amazing run under Pulis. And yeah, with Palace, it's always I'm always interested to see, because obviously it's a team I know will stay up. I think most fans do, because you've got Roy Hodgson at the helm. But yeah, it's that next step. So a player obviously that everyone talks about when it comes to Palace is Wilfried Zaha. Were you surprised that he remained at the club this summer?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I want to say I was surprised, but I don't think I was that surprised, because looking back at it, you can't go if there's no real interest there. We went around at least £50 million for Wilfried Zaha. And I'll be honest with you, if I'm another club trying to buy Wilf, I understand why I wouldn't pay that much, because when you look at his goals and assists, he simply hasn't got enough goals and assists last season. And he didn't have the greatest of seasons. So, of course, you wouldn't pay $50 million during the coronavirus pandemic. But, of course, we use this as a PR stunt kind of thing, where we're saying, look, it was a good window because we kept Zaha. But then again, I feel like you could keep Zaha, Dom, if he was the chairman, or if anyone else was the chairman, because there wasn't any real interest there. And even going into this season, I wasn't that worried. I wasn't really that worried, because I know that we value him very highly. So yeah, I wasn't that surprised about us keeping Wilfried Zaha. But of course, will we be able to keep him further on? It depends on what Palace value him, because as of now, I don't think any club is still going to come and pay us £50 million. But then again, there's a dilemma where he's turning 28, 29 soon, and his value is only going to drop. So do we go and get as much as we can get right now, or do we keep him for as long as we want? That's the decision that the club needs to decide on. But personally, I don't mind Wilf staying at the club. I'm happy with him staying at the club because I still feel like he's got top quality in him. And he's shown glimpses so far this season. When it's up front, like Roy Hodgson has put him this season, and when he can actually have that freedom to go forward, he's a very good player. And last season, it was purely down to tactics, really, why I didn't get the goals and assists, because he was asked so much to go back and defend. And this season, we can see it. Once you put Zaha in a position where he can go and attack, he will deliver. And he has so far. But then again, you look at the last 2-3 games, it's not only Zaha, no one has delivered, because we've gone back to the old Roy Hodgson style, or just defending for the whole 90 minutes.
So if we look at the game on Saturday, do you think it can be underestimated how big a win would be for both sides?
I feel like, I don't want to say 6-pointer, but at this stage of the season, I can't imagine us losing this game. And also for you guys, I can imagine that you don't want to lose this game as well, because you look at your fixture list, Palace are a team that you should be beaten. And when we look at it, with all due respect, we should be beating Fulham, because you're 20th in the league, you've been conceding goals, you've got 1 point in 5 games. So, you know, both teams want to get their 3 points. So I feel like this is a massive game in a way where, if either side loses, if Palace lose, then I can just see Palace Twitter going absolutely toxic. But the real questions will be asked about Roy Hodgson. Will he be able to still keep us up? Many Palace fans still think that. But then again, the way that we're playing right now, it doesn't look too promising. We've only had 2 shots in 2 games. And you look at the teams that we played, yes, it's Brighton. They're not that great. And then Chelsea, they've been conceding goals as well. So there's no excuse for having at least 1 shot against Chelsea when they've conceded 3 against West Brom. They conceded a couple goals against Southampton. So it depends on how this game goes along. But for Palace, from a Palace perspective, this game, Palace need to show a real attacking intent. And if we do, then I feel like we can go and get the points. But of course, that's a massive if. But the pressure's on us.
So if we look at transfer deadline day for us, obviously we signed RubenLoftusCheek, a player that Palace fans know very well. Where would you say that RubenLoftusCheek's best position is?
Well, for Palace, he played in a 4-4-2 system. Roy Hodgson put him out wide. And out wide, he was absolutely brilliant. Down the left-hand side, where he can just dribble and cut in with the ball. He's got tremendous talent on the ball. I'm telling you, this guy, if he's injury-free, he can be a very, very, very good footballer for you guys. Because creatively, going forward, he will create them chances. But the only thing with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, maybe it depends on the style of football that you guys play, of course, is that he's not the greatest defensive player in terms of tracking back and helping out the defenders. I don't think you'll get much out of him from that position. But if he's playing out wide or even a central position, even though I didn't see him at Palace, but I can imagine him playing in a central position as well. He's so comfortable on the ball, and he's actually so physically big as well, where you can't just body him off the ball, where he'll be absolutely amazing for you guys. And I'm actually looking forward to it, because I feel like Ruben Loftus-Cheek is very slept on in the Premier League by other teams because of his injury past. But at Palace, in his short term there, he did really perform. And I hope that he performs once again, because I've got as Palace fans, we've got a soft spot for Ruben because of how he done at Palace.
So if we spoke about it a couple of times that your failure to just be able to get shots on target this season. What do you think that's down to? Is it the tactics? Is it the players you've got at the club? What do you think the problem is?
I don't think we've got players that are that bad though. Like, we've got Wilfried Zaha, we've got Michy Batshuayi that we signed. Andros, he's an experienced Premier League player. We've got Jeffrey Schlupp, who's got pace, but then again, I know it's not the player that you think of. Wow, it's Jeffrey Schlupp you got in your team. But I still feel like we've got good enough squads where we can go and counter teams. But it's purely down to tactics. There's no excuse for that. I mean, if you're in the Premier League, those players should at least be able to create more than 1 shot a game. And against Brighton last game, we only had 1 shot. And I can't remember, but it might not be in a penalty, but we scored from a penalty. That's it. We scored from a penalty and we just sat back for the whole 90 minutes. And this is what I mean. When you got players like Wilfried Zaha and Jeffrey Schlupp and Michy Batshuayi, I'm also worried about them players, because can you imagine playing for this Palace side where you're an attacking creative player, but then again, you can't go and attack and create because of how much you're asked to go and defend. So for that reason, I feel like we've struggled tactically due to Roy Hodgson just telling the players to go and sit back and defend. But of course, it has got us results to keep us up in the past, but whether that will happen this season, only time will tell. But fingers crossed it does happen, because as I said before, my expectation for this season is for us to finish 17th and above, because that's all I think that we can do with this manager. I feel like a manager matters a lot. If you put a different manager in this Palace side, we may be worse, but we can also be better, because this side, I'm not saying it's the greatest side, of course, but it has got some talent there to work with. And right now, Roy Hodgson isn't getting the best out of it.
Yeah, so that's as I said, we spoke about it before. I feel like I expect this to be Hodgson's last season at Palace. I can't see, although again, it depends what your owner's ambitions are, really, doesn't it? Because they know you've got a manager who can keep you up in the league. Like we know what Roy Hodgson's ability is when it comes to keeping players in the league. Obviously, for us, he's one of our best ever. He's potentially one of our best ever managers, getting us to a European final and things like that. But albeit that was 10 years ago now. But he took us from relegation in a couple of years. I really just think it matters. Is the owners backing the transfer market, and obviously the owners, what are their ambitions? Are their ambitions to take you to the top 10, or is their ambition simply just to get the Premier League monies every season and not actually push you on to the next stage? One player at Palace one area at Palace that's always interested me is obviously the goalkeeping situation. I feel like you never seem to have like a dead cert number one. You always obviously there's the likes of Hennessy, then there's also obviously Gaeta, and you've also signed Jack Butland. Do you think Jack Butland is a signing who you're expecting to push and maybe get the number one jersey by the end of the season?
Well, he's actually got the number one jersey in terms of kit number. We've given him number one. But in terms of end of season, I don't see it happening anytime soon. But with the Butland deal, there's no real pressure on Butland, and I'm looking forward to it in a way, because he signed for around £500,000, which sounds crazy because a couple of seasons ago we were talking about Jack Butland being a £20 million player. So he basically signed for nothing. I guess he'll be a second option right now because Vicente Guaita is our main goalkeeper. He saved us last season, as well as Jordan Ayew, in keeping us up. Without them two players right now, I wouldn't be speaking to you because we'll be in the Championship. So they had a massive role. So I don't feel like Vicente Guaita will lose his position because of how good it's been. But Jack Butland is only 27 years old. So in the future, there could be a chance, a spot for him, because he's still relatively young for a goalkeeper. And we'll see how he develops, because I've got high hopes for him still, because of the less pressure that he's got on his shoulders now that he's at a new club and new surroundings. Not a big money move as well. So not many people will be talking about it. So hopefully in a season or two, yes, Butland will start. But for this season, I don't see it happening.
So if we look at obviously the game on the weekend, what obviously everyone knows about Wilfried Zaha, where would you sort of pinpoint where you expect Palace to try and what players with Fulham should be most worried about, but obviously aren't the obvious options such as Wilfried Zaha?
It's a very good question. It depends on what Palace side you get. Again, when you look at a Brighton game, if I'm talking about the Brighton game, you would not really be worried about anyone apart from maybe Jairo Riedewald, who's a midfielder, joined from Ajax, but really hasn't started consistently under Roy Hodgson. But he absolutely bossed the midfield, so he was absolutely fantastic there. Riedewald, and maybe Jeffrey Schlupp. On his day, maybe if Fulham are pushing forward, he's got massive pace on him. So if he can run down the left-hand side, he can cause problems. And he has got a couple goals as well. So it's not as bad as people make him out to be. So I'll say Jairo Riedewald in midfield. And if you're looking at pace, maybe someone to get worried about, I'll say Jeffrey Schlupp down the left-hand side, because him and Wilfried Zaha both down the left-hand side. Wilf will be, of course, more of an attacking player, and Jeffrey Schlupp will be more of a wide player. So yeah, both of them players, three of them, you should watch out for.
Obviously, if you look at the reverse of that, obviously you're looking at this Fulham team. Yes, we've only got 1.5 games, but obviously we played fairly well against Sheffield United on the weekend. Probably could have won that game. Is there players in this side who really worry you if you're analysing the way you've played so far this season?
I'll be honest. I wouldn't say I'm worried about those players, but then again, when you're looking at Palace, I don't think the players really matter as much, because as we've seen it, this Brighton team that we face, they don't even have great players themselves. In all honesty, yes, they have got a couple good players. Lamptey is a brilliant player, but when you look at it as a whole, they haven't got that many great players. But I'm just more worried about tactically. I'm more worried about your manager, and of course, as I said, RubenLoftusCheek. You got players that I want to be worried about as well, Mitrovic as well. But I'm more worried about the tactical side of games rather than individual players. I'm thinking about how Scott Parker will approach the game, how Roy Hodgson will approach this game, because in all honesty, I can see us going into this game and potentially sitting back. And is that going to damage Palace? It may, because of, you say that you play out from the back. So if you keep the ball and we struggle to keep possession, then, I would be worried. But I wouldn't really say that I'm worried about the player side of things, more tactics.
So if we're looking at the Palace team on Saturday, what sort of lineup are you expecting Hodgson to field?
Hodgson, I'm expecting the same lineup really. Vicente Guaita in goal, Joe Ward as right back with Cahill at centre back with Cheiko Kouyaté and the youngster Mitchell at left back, Slop at left mid, and then Jairo Reedwald and MacArthur at centre mid, and then Andros Townsend out wide, and then Michy Batshuayi and Zaha up front. That's what I'm predicting. But whether it'll work better than it did against Brighton, I guess, as I said, it would just be down to how we approach this game. Will we sit back or we will actually pressure Fulham?
Yeah, and obviously one last question. What's your score prediction for the game?
Yeah, score prediction. Of course, I'm predicting a Palace win because we need to win this game as much as you guys do. I don't know if we'll concede a goal. I said 2-1 on our channel, but the only positive so far this season has been that we are solid defensive side. But let's say we were to concede a goal, I feel like on the counter, because of you guys pressuring us, I could see Jeffrey Schlupp maybe being a problem with his pace, and Wilf Zaha, who will live up to these games and try to get goals. So I feel like 2-1 Palace would be a good result, and I also wouldn't be surprised if we lose 2-1 as well. It's that type of game where if we win 2-1, yes, that means we're on a day, but losing 2-1 would be typical Palace.
Yeah, I feel like this is a game that can go either way, but it's going to be very close. I think as we said on both channels, it is going to be. I think it's basically going to be 2-1 either way. That's still really the way I'm seeing it. Hopefully, it goes our way and get our first win this season. But yeah, thanks for joining us on the Fulhamish YouTube channel, Diyar. You can check Back of a Nest. I will leave all their scripts in the description, their Twitter, YouTube, everything. Make sure to check them out. Really, really good podcast and Crystal Palace YouTube channel. So we also did a preview over on their channel. So if you're interested in what I've got to say about the game a bit more, you can go check it out over there. But obviously, I've been Don Betts. This has been the Fulhamish YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys next time.